Welcome to the first KetoKubas MMA talk with my bro, Rhys. And you thought my name was difficult to pronounce. Maybe this is a one-off, maybe I'll make 100 more of these. Who knows? Depends if you'll enjoy them. In this podcast, we focus on the UFC Fight Island 3 event, amazing performances of multiple fighters, including Khamzat Chimaev, aka Khabib 2.0, Tom Aspinall, and of course, the guys from the main event. We also touch upon our martial arts backgrounds and positive effect that these sports can have on young, especially troubled kids. While I have proudly represented the judo community, my brother has had quite impressive results in the Kyokushin karate world. You may not have known this, but MMA has played a crucial part in my mental and physical evolution, including shocking new levels of confidence. And hence, I feel extremely passionate about the subject. After listening to us blabber, maybe you will too. If you like these educational MMA, keto, low-carb, carnivore, IF, and other content, consider supporting my work by going to patreon.com/KetoKubas. That's KETOKUBAS. Thank you for allowing me to move out of my parents' basement. Peace.
Hey bro, so first of all, I was supposed to have this podcast with another up-and-coming fighter, but that didn't pan out. So I decided to invite the second most passionate person that I know about the sport, aka my brother. So yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's a strange feeling, as if I was, a replacement fighter who's coming up for a fight. I didn't get to have such a good camp. I didn't get to, control the whole weight cut. But I'm so passionate to jump into the ring that I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have to cut weight, so yeah, you have more energy, more things to say about. But yeah, so yeah, we're here to discuss the recent UFC event, the Fight Island 3. It was seriously one of the best events I've ever seen. It was amazing from start to finish. It really reminded me of a numbered event, like a pay-per-view event. The main thing I enjoyed about it is because it had the perfect ratio of legends of the game, of up-and-coming fighters, and people who were aiming for the title shot. So at least it felt like the energy in the air was there, and that was amazing. But yeah, what are your first thoughts on the whole event?
I mean, I'm really glad that you kind of got my attention to the event, because with these fight nights, I often just watch the main fight and that's it. Maybe the second to the end fight, and I usually skip the fighters that I don't know. But because you told me that it's such a great event, I watched also fights of the fighters that I didn't know that well, and it really paid off. So I'm glad that you got my attention to the event.
Yeah, these kind of fight nights usually have many fighters who make their debut in UFC, but at least from my perspective, like UFC fails to push these fighters like 50% of the time. 50% of the time, like they say, oh, this is gonna be the next John Jones or whatever, but they just fall flat and like lose people's attention. But yeah, with fighters such as I need to learn to remember his name, but Khamzat Chimaev or Tom Aspinall, these fighters just surpassed people's expectations, and now everybody's talking about him, at least Khamzat Chimaev, or as people now know him as Khabib 2.0, or his manager calls him Khabib 3.0. But yeah, also before we jump into the event, what do you think about the whole Fight Island idea?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't look too much into it, but it seems to me that, especially in the context of the States, where they had to, suspend practically all sports and sporting events, and the fact that they've put so much effort into, continuing the sport, and the feedback that I get also from the fighters, like they're very appreciative of the things, the way things happen. They feel that they are taken care of. They feel that things are, made safe. And we've got, many events one after another in quite a short time span. So I don't know. It's it's just a great payoff, with the whole virus thing, and so many of not just sports but all sorts of entertainments are suspended. They're stopped, and to get such a diamond as all of the events of the Fight Island, it seems great.
Yeah, I agree. And like events such as these, like this fight night, like people just like they focus on the pay-per-view events, which are amazing in the Fight Island, but they just forget that also some of the fight nights are amazing. The upcoming one isn't gonna be as spectacular, but yeah, this one was really great. And yeah, I love.
I also wanted to say that on the topic of the way they promote events or fighters that aren't known as well as others. I like one thing that they're doing on their YouTube channel. They started making these videos like Fight Night 174 or whatever, and then fighters you should know. So they're making these little kind of trailers or, things that supposed to get you on track, get you to know fighters that you don't know, and as many would say, if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah,
You get to know
yeah, many fighters used and they still complain that they're underpromoted. But at least from the way I see things is if you do the right things, the company is gonna promote you. If you're like Khamzat Chimaev who fights on like has 2 fights in under 10 days, moves to different weight classes. If you want to fight and you're not gonna be like too negotiating or too picky, then like yeah, the company is gonna promote you and they're gonna support that kind of approach to fighting. Which I mean, that's exactly why fighters such as Gilbert Burns are getting the attention that they're getting. Yeah, obviously Chimaev. Um, yeah, that's why not everyone can be Conor McGregor and choose the fights that they want, choose the pay that you're gonna get, and yeah. So if you want to fight, they're gonna be on your side.
In his case, especially the fact that he fought, with just a pause of 10 days. I don't know. I would be really interested to know if that's just his thing. If he decided and he wished to do so, is he the only one that wished to do so, or were there other fighters, that would really like to fight, just in one event after another, but they didn't got the chance. So I don't know if this whole thing where he was able to, have to participate in different events, like with a very short pause, was it just because of his initiative, or was it also a special opportunity given to him by UFC because of some reasons that I don't know?
I'm almost 100% certain it was just him. Like there are fighters who can say, "Oh, I can fight later tonight or I can fight tomorrow," but I'm pretty sure they're just saying that for promotion. And when the UFC calls, like there are, like I'm pretty sure there are 2 fighters, Khamzat Chimaev and Donald Cerrone, like fighters who actually would agree to fight like every other day almost. But yeah, so let's start with that fight. I'm glad it was part of the main event. Yeah, so Khamzat Chimaev versus Rhys McKee. Yeah, that was an insane performance. What made it even more impressive, the fact that he fought 10 days prior. He made his debut where he looked just as amazing. He fought at middleweight and then he had to cut weight to welterweight. And yeah, both first round finishes, both extremely dominant. Yeah, that was and yeah, the main thing about Khabib 2.0 is that he has dominance level that's just as big as Khabib, but I feel like because he's a welterweight, because he's a bigger guy, he's way more confident in his power, so he's going for the finish all the time. That's why he has so many first round finishes. And yeah, just the fact that he's slightly bigger, slightly more powerful, and extremely confident in his abilities, he's even more exciting to watch than somebody like Khabib. So what are your thoughts on that fight in particular?
I guess, I mean, it's, when you see fights like that, there are a couple of things that crosses my mind. First, like, yeah, on the first side, he's really amazing. He's extremely dominant and so on. But immediately I start thinking, isn't this a situation where he maybe didn't get a proper opponent? Maybe he didn't get someone who would challenge him that much, and maybe it's because of a bit of maybe circumstances, the way who he is fighting have something to do with the fact that he looked so dominant. But nevertheless, I mean, yeah, he looks great. I mean, his ability to take someone down is like extremely quick. I mean, he's really fast. I would be interested to see in the future, does he have any stand-up game at all? Because we got to see during, the evolution of Khabib that he's got a stand-up game. He's not that bad of a boxer. We got to see, the famous, punch that rocked McGregor and so on. And I guess we got to see him in his stand-up game a bit more against Yaquinta. So, I mean, I would be interested in Chimaev's case in the future to see if he can, trade shots, if he can, kick and so on, how much he of a stand-up fighter. But as a ground and pound fighter, as a wrestler, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the way he took his opponent, what's his name? The English guy.
McKee, I think that's how.
McKee. The way he took McKee and quite effortlessly carried him to his corner. I mean, you don't see that often, where you pick your opponent up from the ground and you carry that opponent to your corner. So, I mean, that's after that, it was obvious he was going to win.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, obviously it's his second fight. The UFC isn't going to give him, like, a top 10 guy or anything like that, so it makes sense. But, like, as far as I know, like, the guy he was fighting, I'm not sure I think it was also his debut in UFC, but he was also a prospect. Like, they were also pushing him. They also thought, like, either Chimaev or maybe he's going to be like some sort of a star in the near future. And the weird thing is, like, and yeah, about Chimaev striking, I already, like, even though he showed so little of his striking on his feet, I still think he's already way better than Khabib at striking. And as he said, he didn't have the opportunity to show off his boxing, but he has everything. Like in his previous fights, like he wants to box, he boxes, but he listens to his corner, which is really good sign. His corner says, no, go take him down. Fine, he goes do that, and I think that's another reason maybe why he's so successful. He's extremely confident in himself, but he's also confident in his teammates and his corner. So like that's why.
Yeah, that's also one of the things that I noticed. During the fight itself, and also when he's talking in interviews, like he has extreme respect for his teammates, extreme respect for his corner, and he's also always listening to them. So I guess he could have, just took McKee and took him down at where he had him, but he decided to move him to his corner just to hear the advices of his coaches. I mean, this kind of relationship with coaches, it could be, I guess, one of the key things that get him so successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a big sign of a good fighter, that he doesn't. Yeah, like from like you could say at first glance that he's kind of douchey, and like he's calling out. He had his first fight, he's calling out, I think, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, these guys. But the thing is, like. He kind of reminds me of what's the guy's name that just returned to UFC, bantamweight. How am I forgetting his name? That just had the fight that's calling out Cody Garbrandt.
Not sure.
Sean O'Malley.
Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Sorry for forgetting his name. So yeah, he's also kind of like, both of them seem kind of douchey just because they didn't have that high level of the competition. But yeah, they're just like, they know how powerful they are. They know how good their abilities are, and that's why their confidence is so. But yeah, confidence is key. Like if you if you in any way doubt yourself, I think that can be hugely negative. And
With O'Malley, I think that at least what I'm seeing, the way he pops up in social media and so on, he seems to have this, risk of fame getting to his head too much. Like, he seems to have this risk that's maybe not, it's not popping up that much now, but in the near future, he seems to have this risk of, being too much of a star, this kind of a McGregor phenomenon he could have, because he's extremely liked by people. He's extremely flashy, so everyone likes him. Everyone enjoys listening to him, watching him, and so on. With Chimaev, I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just my, cultural prejudice, and I see him coming from a different background, a different cultural background, where he wouldn't have so much ambition to become this famous person and so on. O'Malley seems to enjoy and to want to be a famous person. That's why I see the risk of him getting to his head. In Chimaev's case, yes, I see him as extremely confident in himself, like a bit cocky, I guess, at times, but I don't see him in a way that he risks of becoming, too much of a star, or letting fame getting in his head too much.
Yeah, I feel like both of those guys are dealing. I mean, the amount of fandom that Chimaev's gonna get is gonna grow and grow, and the same with Sean O'Malley. They're gonna deal with this with this pressure in different ways. I think they're both gonna do well. Like Sean O'Malley had his layoff, had time to reflect on his whole career and how people perceive him. I think they're both gonna be huge stars of the UFC, and clearly UFC and Dana White is respecting that and giving them the chance to shine. Another thing about his opponent, I've looked at his record, and he had quite a few submission wins. So like from the performance that Khabib 2.0 had, it seemed as if his opponent was just brand new to grappling in general. Like it seemed like it was his first day at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, but yeah, the way he picked it up. Another thing, like I'd be curious to see how Chimaev does in how he would have done in the second round and the third round, because even during his interview, it seemed like he was fairly tired and out of air. It makes sense because like he was going for the finish. But yeah, if somehow his opponent would have survived, made it to the second round, to the third round, it would be interesting to see.
I guess because this whole dominating ground and pound working, it's also quite energy consuming. You might know this. You might know a bit, quite more about this, and correct me if I'm wrong. But couldn't it be the case that McKee and maybe some other Chimaev's opponents in MMA, they might have more experience in jiu-jitsu, and Chimaev, just as Khabib, they come from a wrestling background. Like, they're both ground games, jiu-jitsu and wrestling, but it would seem that some of the specific, ground techniques that Khabib uses and Chimaev uses as well, like, the way they strap their legs around their opponent's legs, and their opponent is not able to not only stand up, but practically to move. And, the way also they have this expression of the Dagestanian cuff, where they grab their opponent's wrist. It would seem to me that there are maybe some techniques or some tendencies in wrestling that might be, I don't know, a bit surprising or a bit new to fighters of MMA who have most experience in jiu-jitsu, like as for their ground game.
Yeah, but still, like, it seemed as if he hadn't had a single like any type of grappling lesson his opponent. Like he didn't. There wasn't a single point where it was like, oh, he can do something from there, because a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, he would be able to fight off his back and look for submissions or anything. But yeah, I mean, it was clear that his opponent was primarily a strike and not particularly good grappler. I'm pretty sure Dylan Dennis, who's even though he's at Bellator, but yeah, he also called Chimaev. That would be a interesting fight because both of them are insanely good grapplers. But yeah, another thing about Chimaev and Khabib is that they don't seem too muscular. The way they handle guys is so dominant, and like the weight distribution is probably a key thing. But like, yeah, neither Chimaev nor Khabib is so muscular, and yeah, that speaks for something. I don't know if it's just the strength of mind, the endurance aspect or something.
And I guess also technique,
Yeah.
In Chimaev's case, you could see, that the punches that he was throwing when he had his opponent on the ground, they weren't exactly knockout punches, none of them probably wouldn't have been the one, and none of them was the one that would knock his opponent out. But he gave a good volume. He had, he's throwing them one after another quite quickly. And that also, I guess, that makes a huge impact for the judge, for the referee. I mean, for the referee who's seeing this, he's seeing his opponent receiving one shot after another. And when there's so many of them, even though they're not knocking the opponent out, they're still giving the impression that the opponent has nothing left to do, and the opponent, is in a dead end.
Yeah, I mean, it goes like the same in Khabib's fights and in Chimaev's fights. It looks like, yeah, their opponents are just hopeless and like just waiting for the round to finish or for them to get finished. But yeah, let's also talk about the other guy that's talked maybe less than Chimaev, but I think he had as impressive as performance is Tom Aspinall. He fought in the prelim, so maybe that's why not so many people saw the fight. He fought another guy that was fairly known coming off a layoff, Jay Collier. Yeah, what did you think of that fairly quick finish? I think he finished in 45 seconds or something. Yeah, what did you think of that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Tom at all before this event, and I was impressed with the way he moves. Like there were a lot of comments I saw online, and I completely agree with them that he has his whole body movement is as if he was a quite lighter fighter. So seeing him so quick and so easy on his feet, it was quite impressive. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, all I knew about him is that he's one of Darren Till's teammates. And yeah, like when I watched him fight, he seriously reminded me of White Francis Ngannou, because the way he, like, for his size, of course he's not as muscular and not as lean as Francis Ngannou, but he's still pretty lean. And yeah, I've heard commentators, I think, say he moves like a welterweight, and he does. Yeah, that was a really good performance. I can't wait to see how he does with better guys, against better guys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to his career. I feel like the heavyweight division can use fighters like him that move fast and yeah, are extremely exciting to watch. Yeah, what about the co-main? I think it was the co-main. Yeah, Alexander Gustafsson versus Werdum. What did you? Maybe it wasn't it wasn't the co-main event. Yeah, it was the co-main event. No,
it was before the co-main event.
Yeah, against Werdum. What did you think of that fight? Do you think that Gustafsson had the opportunity to show off how he looks at heavyweight, or was that too short of a time frame?
Unfortunately, I think it was too short. I mean, I was really excited to see him get back. I mean, there's these two famous opponents of John Jones, Anthony Pettis and Gustafsson, are two fighters that I always felt, I don't know, kind of sorry for, because they both seem to me good fighters that, don't get to shine because they always have to fight the probably greatest of all time, at least as some people say, And because of how great John Jones is, it seemed a pity to me that Gustafsson and Pettis didn't.
Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith, sorry. Anthony Smith, didn't get to be so much in the spotlight. And when Gustafsson moved to heavyweight and when he came back, I had big hopes for him and I was really glad. I thought that maybe this will be his weight class. Maybe this will be a place where he'll have the opportunity to shine and so on. But unfortunately, I didn't get that good of an impression of him. Maybe it's just because of the length of the fight, which wasn't that long. And I hope that despite this loss, he'll be able to climb up the ladder in a heavyweight division in the future. I hope that he won't be forgotten, and I hope that he will be able to, I don't know, cement himself in the heavyweight division in the upcoming events.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he would look better as a heavyweight, because he had insane speed at light heavyweight, and I thought if he were to carry some of that speed at heavyweight, he would do great. But yeah, it was a really short fight, so I can't comment too much on it. But Gustafsson weighed in at 240, and I think Werdum weighed in at 242. And I feel like if he were to weigh in at a lighter weight, maybe 220 or 225, he would have carried more of his speed. I mean, he didn't look overweight or out of shape, but yes, he was noticeably slower than he was at light heavyweight. And yeah, that was kind of surprising. He kind of reminded me, obviously not as fat, but as from Avengers, the fat Thor. He's also I think supposed to be from Sweden or whatever. But yeah, he did seem more out of shape than usual, which, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just biased because the fight was so quick. I'm glad that he's not as down as he was after the Smith fight or after the John Jones fight. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, Werdum is as experienced as it gets. He's a lot of, like, as I saw fighters commenting on the fight, almost like 9 out of 10 people were saying that Gustafsson is gonna win because Werdum is like, oh, he's expired or whatever. But yeah, like the power. Oh, maybe. I wasn't really thought like Gustafsson would shine as a heavyweight. He was talking about moving to heavyweight ages ago when he was on top. I remember seeing him on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was saying how good he feels heavyweight as a heavyweight because he was fairly big at light heavyweight. So yeah, and I wanted him to move up a weight class a while ago. Yeah, I still think he has potential. Like he has to sort of see what's his perfect weight, but I think there is definitely potential for him somewhere. Yeah, why don't we talk about the main event? Till versus Whittaker. Yeah, do you think there's any chance that could have been scored a draw, or do you have Whittaker winning clearly?
I don't know. Most of the time when I'm watching main events, I'm quite a biased fan, and I don't want to, but unconsciously, I usually decide or pick a fighter that I want to win. And, all of the scoring that is going in my head during the fight, it always it leans towards the fighter that I want to win. So for some reason, and I can't tell you really why, I'm not sure, I wanted Whittaker to win during this fight. And I kind of scored it also that, for him. So, yeah, I'm not sure whether, I don't think it could have been a draw. I mean, I still didn't seem in his best in this fight. If I think that he looked better in his previous fights. And I think that, if we got to see the best of Till versus Whittaker, it could have been maybe, been a draw, or maybe the fight even could have gone to Till. But the way it happened this time, I think that, the win is earned by Whittaker.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that the Whittaker did slightly more than Till to win. I didn't want either of the guys to lose. I'm a big fan of both Whittaker and Till, as most people are. I don't think anybody really hates either of the guys, because they're really honest about their weaknesses. They're just honest people, unlike most UFC top guys, at least in my opinion, and in fans' opinion, apparently. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the first round, I think that was one of the best Till's performances I've ever seen. Like when he knocked Whittaker down, and like the way he moved, and his striking was superb. And I mean, it makes sense why after the second round he wasn't doing as well. I'm pretty sure you've heard that he tore his knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would explain why. That would explain why. Second. Up. That would explain why. Like after that kick of Whittaker's happened, he threw like 4 kicks afterwards. Like he was fighting with half of his resources. So yeah, I still was impressed. Like even with the tourney, I'm not sure the full extent, but he was fighting amazing. And I just don't think like it was a title. It was a fight that the winner is supposed to get a title shot. After Paulo Costa fights Israel Adesanya, so one of them was supposed to get a title shot, and I do think that Dana White is gonna give Whittaker the chance, and I just don't think that was as clear cut of a win to give the title shot. I don't know if it's.
I guess you could say in some way that, Whittaker is a bit cursed to get these kind of situations. His fights, I guess both of his fights with Romero also were, a lot of people debated them. A lot of people had doubts whether did he win or did he not? Did he deserve to be the champion and so on? I guess some people see this fight also as, debatable in the way it got judged. But I don't know. I mean, I thought that he fought a smart fight. I think that he fought, a careful but effective fight. And I mean, I was expecting, some huge power shots from Till, and I thought that there was at least a slight chance of him knocking Whittaker out. And the fact that he chose this, careful approach where he would, use a lot of leg kicks. He would keep his distance, not, not got provoked, and he didn't get provoked by a lot of Till's pains. So I think that he did enough, and I see this tendency of his fights where he has these debatable wins, but I still think that he earned his win.
I feel like in this case, I'm probably the only one thinking that like either this was a draw or Till won. I feel like most people did think that Whittaker win. I saw some people saying that the fight was boring. I definitely don't agree with that. I feel like both of the guys did say there was like a chess match, and that's exactly how it was. I thought the fight was actually gonna go similar to Whittaker's fight against Israel Adesanya. I thought that Till was gonna keep his distance with Whittaker and just find his shots, but he fought much closer, in much closer range. Kind of similar to his fight against Kelvin Gastelum. But yeah, Till is getting much more technical, which I'm glad that he does. Like, I think that he definitely was staying way too long in the welterweight division. I'm glad that he moved up. Now he fights way more technically, and I still think he's gonna get a title shot. Israel Adesanya pointed that out for Till to not give up, and that eventually he thinks they're gonna meet. And I do think that's gonna happen. Yeah, I did enjoy that fight a lot. I liked Till's comments. Like, he said, like, I don't think I lost. I feel like we both won, because like both of them did what they were supposed to do, and like, yeah, that was a great performance. And yeah, I feel like those two are gonna meet at some point as well.
I guess my guess would be that some people could say that the fight was boring to them because there weren't a lot of trading of shots. I guess in these, in lighter divisions, in bantamweight, in featherweight, in lightweight, you get more fights where, guys stand up in front of each other and they're trading shots, one after another. As you get heavier, you get less and less, I guess, of those fights. In this case, there were actually a lot of movement, a lot of feints, and a lot of, strategizing and thinking. And I guess for those people, it wasn't, as entertaining as it would be if they were, trading one punch after another. But for me personally, it was still extremely exciting to see. It wasn't, it was different from, let's say, Adesanya versus Romero, where there you have like these static rounds where, there were both fights have this, tendency of, not that much of an action. But in Whittaker versus Till, as opposed to Adesanya versus Romero, you had the, you could see that they're always thinking, they're always strategizing, they're always feinting, and they're always coming up with ways that they're trying to come up with ways that, they can get their opponent. So, I mean, it was an exciting fight for me, nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, both of the guys mentioned how stressful they felt throughout the fight and like afterwards. And I mean, you can feel that when both guys have the power to knock each other out, and with all the feints, and for 5 rounds, like for 5 rounds, they have to be on edge. One of the guys gonna move in, and I love that match. The fact that it was like a chess match, but it also had explosive moments where both fighters like knocked each other down, and yeah, I enjoy that fight, and I think it'll be a great rematch in the future. So yeah, do you have any thoughts about the upcoming UFC events? There's gonna be a fight night this weekend, Brunson versus I hope I remember the guy's name, Shabazian. Yeah, he's another up and coming star. At least that's what people think. And yeah, he has his first big match against Brunson, and he's managed by Ronda Rousey. So that's another reason why he's so talked about. And yeah, Dana White's also excited about him. I haven't seen too much about him, but I mean, it's clearly that he's definitely have his biggest challenger, and it'll definitely be his biggest challenge. And do you have any thoughts who's gonna win that one?
I didn't got the time to look too much into it, so I can't tell yet. I'll have to look into it more.
Yeah, and yeah, me neither. Yeah, I just wish that it's not gonna be another moment where UFC just pushing and pushing another star, and then the fall is so hard that I don't know, they don't recover. And there are many exciting fights in that card. There's gonna be after that. What do you think of that fight?
I mean, I can't tell who's gonna win. I mean, it's it seems a legendary fight, and it's been long waited, and I mean, I most of the time throughout these last months, I looked every while every time in a while I look at some of DC's interview, and I see him, contemplating his loss. I see him, learning lessons from it, and I think that we'll see him in quite a better, situation, quite a better shape and so on than his previous fight. Because during his last fight with Stipe, I kind of thought that he could have won, but he didn't because of his own faults. Like just the way he himself acknowledged it. That he got too carried away in boxing. Like he could have took the fight to the ground, but he didn't. He wanted to prove that he can win, just by boxing. And that was a weird choice for me, I mean, you can take this, this approach. And I guess it takes back us a bit to Khabib, who also wanted to prove that he can, box in some matches. But at the end of the day, if while trying to prove this thing, you end up losing the fight, then it's a pity. Then you haven't proved anything, So in DC's case, I think that I'm hoping for him, to come to this fight, like learn his lessons, and I'm expecting an exciting match. Yeah. I'm not sure who I'm rooting for.
Yeah, that's another that I want both fighters to win, which is unfortunate. But the thing with DC, like he's been saying that, oh, he didn't listen to his coaches, and like his coaches were saying to take him down, and he didn't do that. I think that in some way discredits Stipe Miocic. I think he just didn't give DC a chance to take him down. I think he kept his distance beautifully, defended the takedowns pretty efficiently, and I think that kind of discredits Miocic. I don't think it's going to be that easy. Like, if DC is going to have the mindset, I'm just going to take him down, like Miocic knows that he's going to try to do that. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think it's going to be another stand-up fight, in my opinion, and I have no idea who's going to win.
You think that Stipe would like it to be a stand-up fight?
I mean, definitely, yes. Stipe does prefer, and he does defend takedowns quite well. But like other factors also come into play, because according to DC, it's his last fight, and I'm not so sure. Dana White also thinks that he has more fights left in him, because he said he's gonna have his last fight, retire at 40. It's already 40. I think like he's too good. He's too good at it, and like he's not out of shape. So I think he's gonna have more than that. But yeah, maybe if he comes with that mindset that I need this amazing finish, and then I can end my career like on this high tide, then maybe he's gonna put an extra oomph into that fight. And yeah, it's definitely gonna be an interesting one. We also didn't talk about the Dan Hardy versus Herb Dean incident. That was the event had everything. It had amazing performances, it had drama outside the cage. What do you think about that incident? Who's in the wrong? Who's more in the wrong, perhaps?
I'm not sure. I mean, I watched the ending of the fight quite a couple of times, and I listened to what Herb Dean had to say, and I listened to a part of Dan Hardy's some video where he was talking. It was quite a long. I think he made an hour-long video where he commented on the situation, so I didn't listen to all of it. But I tried to hear his perspective. I mean, I guess there are two things that you can talk about in this situation. One, the stoppage itself, and the other thing is, the relationship between the referee, the commentators, and so on. So talking about the stoppage itself, I mean, was it late? Yes. Is Herb Dean at fault here? I don't think so. Because as some noticed, I think that's very important to emphasize. Herb Dean was behind the fighters. It was, I think, he only saw them from the back. When what's the guy's name that fell down, that got knocked out?
I actually don't know. I think he was another. It's Guy Herpert. That's the guy's name.
And his opponent?
That was Francisco Trinaldo.
So yeah, when Herbert fell down, you could see that he was knocked out. But when Herb Dean, got around Francisco's back, and when he saw Herbert lying on the ground, he saw him, with his head lifted up, with his legs in the air, and with his hands in the air, as if he was about to defend. Now that was probably a situation where, sometimes when guys get knocked out, their, body fixates, like their hands or their legs or even their neck fixate in one, in this specific position, and they're out cold, they're unconscious, but they're still, their hands aren't wobbly, they're fixated in this moment. So I'm not sure what's the, biology behind this, but, I guess their muscles get tense or so on, whatever. But I mean, I could see that in this situation, Herb got the impression probably that, the guy is on the ground, but he's still trying to defend. What discredits this impression is the fact that, tell me his name again, the one that won the fight.
Trinaldo.
That Trinaldo waited before continuing to punch, waiting before continuing the fight. So I don't know. I mean, it was a weird situation. I mean, I think that obviously Ronaldo's punches weren't necessary, and the fact that he, showed constraint, I guess, is a sign of his great sportsmanship. So I think that the fight could have been stopped right there and then when he knocked his opponent down, but I'm not blaming Dean too much. I mean, I get his point of view, and I think it's natural, I guess, for referees, to make these sort of mistakes once in a while. So I don't know. I mean, as I've said, do I think that it's a late stoppage? Yes. Do I think that Herb Dean is at fault? No.
Yeah, the thing, I mean, obviously most people would acknowledge that refereeing is a really tough job, and knowing when to stop the fight, to not stop it earlier, and to not stop it too soon, and to not stop it too late, that's quite a big challenge. I do think there were quite a few details that make it seem that it was definitely a late stoppage. Like when your opponent stops hitting you, as if looking at you, what are you doing? Just stop the fight. I mean, that's a sign. Usually fighters, they're just going until somebody tells them to stop. They're not observing, their opponent. Is he out? Is he not completely out? And the fact that he stopped, I mean, yeah, it shows that he's a sportsmanship. It shows that he's extremely experienced and, but also, he might know something because, I mean, he's as close to him as the referee, and I think he should have. That was weird. That short moment when he's looking at the referee and he's no, go hit him a couple more times. I definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure that Ronaldo didn't do this, and he wouldn't do this. But from this kind of funny perspective, you could technically imagine a situation where someone would use where someone would manipulate this kind of situation. Like, let's say a fighter knocks his opponent down, and his opponent isn't out yet, but the one that knocked his opponent down stops, doesn't do anything, looks at the referee with the idea that I want to give an impression that that's it, the fight's over, you can stop it now, and so on. And then, I mean, just to avoid these kind of manipulations, if you understand what I'm saying, I guess the referee should, I don't know, not always count on these situations where the dominant fighter stops for a moment, or the dominant fighter stands still and is looking at him.
I feel like that wouldn't really happen. Like, that'd be too risky and possibly detrimental if you were to stop and the fight is not stopped. You're just giving your opponent time to recover and to get out of that spot. So I don't think fighters really abuse that and be like if the guy stops, like in Gaethje versus Cerrone, like he knows that his opponent isn't gonna do anything, and they're not gonna stop, wait for the guy to recover. Maybe the referee is gonna stop the fight, maybe not. I think that's just too risky.
Yeah.
And the thing with refereeing, when people are asking who's the best referee out there, and like names such as Herb Dean or Big John McCarthy get mentioned. And the thing is, I just don't see, like, when I look at referees, I don't see great referees. I see horrible referees, like the Asian referee Yamasaki, I think, and then I see fine referees like Herb Dean and the others. Like, it is such a tough job, and like, people look at it as if it's the first questionable stoppage of Herb Dean, but he had quite a few, and it's not, most of them aren't late stoppages. Most of them people say, oh, it was too early. I remember when Aspinall was fighting in the main event, and she was stopped 14 seconds into the first round, also by Herb Dean, and everybody was saying like that's way too early, way too soon of a stoppage. And I agree, like, she was tight, she could have gotten a title shot, and so Herb Dean, I think he has, like, just as not most referees, but the decent referees, like, he has some early stoppages, he has some late stoppages. Most of them are optimally in the middle. So yeah, it is a tough job. I don't know how to make it so that I feel like, I mean, it's better if there are more early stoppages than late stoppages. And this wasn't a title fight, so like you shouldn't have made it gone that
early
far.
Stoppages, more early than late stoppages is better for fighters' health. But more late stoppages than early stoppages would guarantee us a clearer answer every time who's won the fight. I mean, I think that these kind of mistakes are unavoidable in such a job as a referee. I agree with you that therefore it would seem that there are bad referees and just decent referees, because what makes a referee decent, I think, is the fact that you've got a lot of experience and you've got strict rules. Why and what are you doing in specific situations? What I like about Herb Dean is that he has arguments and reasons for every decision that he makes. Every time, at least most of the time, that there's some sort of a controversy or someone questions his decision, he has his reasons, which he usually explains, and he explicitly states about why he did one or the other decision. And I think that's important. And mistakes where applying his certain rules and experience will unfortunately result in some early or late stoppages. These kind of mistakes are unavoidable in such a job, I mean, I don't think that you can say that a good referee doesn't make mistakes at all. No, I think that a good referee is just consistent. He has reasons for every decision that he makes, and he is looking at every situation, analytically, and he is trying to be, trying to learn from his mistakes and so on. So, I mean, in my mind, as I've said, yeah, it was a problematic situation, and yes, the fight could have been stopped earlier. But this does not discredit Herb Dean at all in my eyes. But as I've said, that's just one part of the situation. Another part of the situation is, the whole relationship between commentators and referees and all the people that are around the octagon during the fights. Because one of the things that Herb Dean concentrated most in his response that he uploaded to YouTube is the fact that a commentator should never scream these things like stop the fight during the fight, because I think that he mentioned there are 3 people that can say it: a medic, a fighter's corner, and there might be someone else. I might be forgetting something. But I mean, it's important for the referee to hear if the medic says that, you have to stop the fight. There's something that you're not seeing and it's medically, impossible. You shouldn't medically allow the fight to continue. Or if some of the corners is throwing in the towel. So I guess I would agree with Herb Dean that, as much as you would like, as much as you empathize with the situation or with the fighters, as in Dan Hardy's case, it's not okay, to try to interfere with the fight when you're a commentator. It would never give good results. And if you would, if we would hypothetically have a situation where a commentator would have an effect of on the fact when the fight is stopped, it would be a very bad precedent for the future.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, the stoppage was clearly way too late. And the thing that I didn't like about Herb Dean's response is that, like, he was really confident that it wasn't a late stoppage. Like, he was just blaming Hardy for voicing his opinion, and I think he totally has the right to do that. Like, in the perfect world, the fight gets stopped at the most optimal point, and then either by physician or by the referee, and the commentator doesn't have to shout stop the fight. But here, I think that didn't happen, and most people agree there was too late of a stoppage, and that his opponent, like, the way he throws up, like, it reminded me of the way Ben Askren throws up after Masvidal. It didn't look to me like a defensive position. It was just the natural body's position to, like, shell up. It wasn't really like or like stop, or like the guy, if he
I guess, but I think that we should keep in mind the fact that, as I've said, like, I think we got a better angle of Herbert's fall than Herb Dean did himself. Because if I'm understanding the situation correctly, it might be that I'm wrong, but if I'm understanding it correctly, that during the fall itself, when Herbert fell down, Herb Dean was behind Trinaldo's back. And when he walked, to see the situation, from the side, to have a clear view, he saw, it was the moment he saw Herbert lying down with his hands and feet up in the air, So he didn't see the fall itself. When he, walked around Trinaldo's back, he saw Herbert lying on the ground, and he saw him with, his hands and feet frozen in the air, and maybe that could be one of the reasons why, he got the impression that it's a defensive stance. I agree with you. Yes, when you're looking, especially a second, a third time, the way he got knocked down, I mean, by then it becomes obvious, that it's not a defensive position. It's a position of the person who's, probably out cold.
I'm glad that Dan Hardy said what he said, because yeah, I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break and be right back in a second. So let's end this podcast with talking about your martial arts journey. We both practiced different martial arts as kids. I did mostly judo. You practiced Kyokushin karate. You were quite obsessed about it. So yeah, what was about karate that made you so passionate? And have you wondered, if you were to choose a different martial art, how would have it changed you as a person? Would you have been as obsessed as you were?
I mean, the possibilities or alternatives are endless. The reason I first got into it had nothing to do with the sport itself, because when I started it in 4th grade, it was just because my friends, started it and they said, come join us. It's really fun. It's interesting. And at first glance, because as in most of, branches of karate, in Kyokushin, you have this, this part of it which is not fighting exactly, which is, mostly learning new techniques, like, just as it would be in shadow boxing, and learning these so-called katas. You probably know about them. So there was quite a lot of this, not strictly combat technique part of it in the beginning. And as I grew older, as I, kept climbing up the Kyu ranks, as I got new belts, there was the part of it that's pure fighting. There was a lot more of it. So yeah, the things that got me hooked up so much, I guess there were a couple of them. One could be applied probably to any striking martial art, was the fact, that especially when you're a kid or when you're an early teenager, it's very easy to, have this extremely cool image of martial arts itself. And I had this image in my head, and it came from kung fu movies, it came from Jackie Chan, it came from some anime. And when, you're practicing martial arts, you're sort of reliving this thing that you're watching, and it seems cool to you. So, and you get to, I don't know, experience this coolness with your own body. So I guess that was one of the things that kept me hooked up, and it could have been achieved, if I was doing boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and so on. So because of this reason, it could have been any other martial art. But there's also one thing that, kept me hooked up, and I think it could not have been achieved with other martial arts, was the fact that, I don't know, from when I was 14, around, or 14, 15, and as I got older, these sparring sessions that we had, we didn't call them sparring sessions, but with the ones that we had, they were an extremely, cleansing and freeing experience, because in Kyokushin you don't throw punches to the head, you only throw punches to the body, but kicks, or you throw them to the legs, to the body, to the head. So kicks go everywhere, but punches you only have to the body. And because you don't throw punches to the head, you don't endanger your opponent that much. You're not in that much of a danger yourself during sparring sessions, and you're allowed. I don't know. I feel as if you're allowed to, be more free and get more wild during sparring sessions. You're still reserved, and you're still, being careful and trying, if you feel that the situation is starting to get disbalanced, you're not beating your opponent to death or anything. But I remember very clearly that I had these sort of, as I've said, cleansing experiences, like at the end of a training session, like we've had a training session for an hour and so on, and we have 3 last fights, like 3 2-minute rounds or something. And I feel that I'm all tired, I'm all sweaty, but I'm starting to fight my friends, and I'm having extreme fun. I'm having extreme fun because They're allowing themselves to be free. I'm allowing myself to be free. We can do many things and not hurt each other extremely, because what can I say? If I would compare, Kyokushin to boxing or kickboxing, it takes way more experience and way more intelligence. It seems at least to me, I'm an amateur, so don't take my words for granted, but it would seem to me that it takes more experience and more intelligence in boxing or kickboxing to allow yourself to, get this pleasure and freeness in fighting, but to take care of your opponent at the same time. Because if you allow yourself to be too free in a boxing or kickboxing match, it's very easy, to hurt your opponent seriously or to get hurt by your opponent seriously and so on. So in Kyokushin, I had, these experiences where, I can fight hard, but at the same time, I'm not beat up too much. I have no brain concussions or whatever at the end of the session. So it was really nice, and I didn't feel any, since I didn't participate in any boxing or kickboxing, I didn't think of the fact that you can't throw, punches to the head. I didn't think of it as anything bad or that anything's missing and so on. It seemed to me so natural, and it seemed to me like a very good thing. Only after a while, when I started doing some Muay Thai training, only then did I notice, okay, there's a whole nother area of fighting that I never got to explore. And only then, I understood that, okay, Kyokushin has this I don't know, empty spot in it, like where there's no protection of your head from your opponent's punches. There's not that much of head movement and so on. But that's another area. Talking about Kyokushin itself, yeah, I think that it's what kept me hooked up to it is this thing that you're allowed to have very nice free fights, and but you don't hurt yourself that much.
Yeah, I mean, when you had this sort of I don't know how transformative of a moment when you realize that Muay Thai allows like different kind of techniques, punches and so on. Like, you can only imagine how would you feel if you tried grappling arts where like completely different and everything's or like MMA where everything is allowed, and like you like this freedom moment that you feel, this freeing aspect is, in my opinion, enhanced way more. And yeah, I tried different things. Like most of my background is in judo. I did do quite a bit of martial arts, MMA, and I do find it the most freeing. And I feel like all the martial arts gives this, but in my opinion, mostly jiu-jitsu and MMA in specific, like these things that it gives you humility, because like in jiu-jitsu, like no matter how good you are gonna get tapped, like you are gonna get submitted, and you are gonna lose eventually. Like if you're a pro, there's gonna be people at your level, there's gonna be masters, and you're always gonna lose to somebody. But it also gives you, like for me, it like martial arts training and MMA in specific, not so much judo, it gives me an insane confidence enhancer. And at the same time, these two things, like it makes you more confident and more humble at the same time. And yeah, it also like this freeing moment, like no matter what job you're working or like what you're studying, it's just like you can let it all out at the gym. And that's true for all martial arts. But I feel like the reason why I like jiu-jitsu or judo the most is because like I feel like you can definitely go way more all out in those sports than in striking arts, because like you can basically go like 90% or 100%, not really injure your opponents if you tap out early enough. And like like if you get most of the injuries at the gym happen by like you're injuring yourself, not your opponents. That's how I tore my knee, and that's like yeah, like if it's not competition, then probably you that gonna injure yourself. And yeah, that's the main reason why I really like jiu-jitsu and grappling sports in general, just because for the most part you can go all in, not injure your opponent.
Yeah, but if I were to advocate striking sports, I would say that this experience of going all out, this does not have to include striking and kicking with full power. I mean, what I got in sparring sessions in Kyokushin, and what I also started to get a bit in sparring sessions in Muay Thai when I got a bit better, was this experience of going all out without punching in your full power. I mean, you get this experience from the fight itself, from the volume of your punches and kicks and so on, from putting whole of your energy into finding holes in your opponent, finding ways to counterattack his attacks and so on. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that despite the fact that I guess in striking sports you have in striking fights you have to put way more restrictions on your power compared to grappling. Despite that, you still have this experience of going all out, letting yourself free, and so on. Just I guess not in terms of power, but in terms of this, I don't know, psychological experience.
Yeah, I feel like both sports have different moments, like throwing a punch, throwing a kick. I feel like that's extremely freeing and a great dopamine rush that you get. And in jiu-jitsu or something, I feel like submitting someone, like they're saying like you won, and yeah, you're just completely disarming your opponent. I think that's a huge dopamine rush that you get. And yeah, that's just different things. Like in striking, like I love hitting the punching bag. I love hitting the pads, and that's another thing where like when you're hitting pads, you can go completely all out, and you feel like yeah, you just give all your energy to whoever holding the pads. So yeah, both of them have their pluses and minuses. That's what
I would ask a question, like for you, because you have way more, you have some experience in grappling, and I have no experience in grappling at all. But I mean, you could also compare these two spheres on this aspect that when you have training sessions and when you spar during training sessions, in striking sports, whatever it would be, boxing, Kyokushin, Muay Thai, or whatever, most of the time you don't have a clear winner. You just spar till the end of the round. The coach tells you that you should stop, and that's it. And while I guess in grappling sports, when you're rolling with someone, most of the time you're probably gonna have a clear winner. And it would seem to me, if I think about myself, if I were to start some grappling sports, that I don't know, it would seem that in training sessions, I wouldn't want that much of this element of competition. Like, am I losing or am I winning? I think that at least for me personally, it might become a tiring factor for my psychology if I would start counting. Okay, today after my training session, I got tapped out, 7 times, and if I would start counting, I won 7 times, but I lost 14 times, and I'm disappointed in myself, and this would put a lot of pressure on me. It would seem to me that it's easier, for me to have these sparring sessions in striking sports because I don't have this pressure, because nobody's counting who's winning or who's losing, because no, it's not that easy to tell,
I feel like you really need to try out jiu-jitsu and see, because it's like that's the main thing that hooks people, is like this game aspect. Like in football, you're not saying like, oh, like why are we keeping score? Like if I lose, I feel bad afterwards.
I guess.
Game, you're not like 3 times. You don't feel bad. Like you still get this. That's the thing. Grappling. feel amazing. Like it is like you win. It like you can still lose in the upcoming fights. You're still constantly learning, and then when you get submitted, you don't feel that bad. Like yeah, you had nice technique. How did you do that? You're curious. Teach me how. And like yeah, in striking has amazing benefits. But yeah, like like the most clear cut, if you get knocked out, it's not fun. And even when you knock out someone, I haven't knocked out anyone, but I don't think it, like I hear people saying that it's not fun. Like you do win most decisively, but like yeah, like when you submit someone, you feel great, they feel great because they learn something. Like yeah, it's I feel like it's the difference. Like yeah, it doesn't feel that bad to lose in grappling sports. And yeah, it's definitely something. I feel like most people right now, like because of social media, because of like so many people are addicted to games, they're really addicted to this aspect of like winning, losing, ranking up. And like Joe Rogan got really, like for his recent comments about games, a lot of people were really mad about him like every other day. But yeah, the thing like you can use this energy and this addictiveness that you feel towards games, you can use it towards games to become better, become professional, and so on. But if you don't see really a path forward, you could try other things where this gameness is in it. And for me, that's martial arts, that's grappling, that's like all the things you love about games, you can find them in MMA and also improve your shape, feel better physically. And yeah, I just feel like that's a way to hook younger folks, especially, don't you think?
I guess. I mean, it's important for every person to find the right sphere in life where where you could implement your competitiveness. I mean, if a person is using his competitiveness successfully in video games, it's great for him. I mean, if he's using his competitiveness successfully in martial arts, great for him as well, I mean, for me personally, when I said this comparison between striking sports and grappling sports, maybe that's exactly because, I, use my competitiveness in, my professional sphere of life, in academics and humanities where, it's where I, work as a professional, and it's very important for me, to be the best, to make another win, and so on. And when I'm this, casual fan of martial arts and a casual practitioner of martial arts, and when I go to training sessions, I really want to have fun. I mean, because fun is I don't know, maybe it's a weird motivation. Maybe others have other motivations. But for me, one of the main reasons why, I keep going, in this case, during the last few years, Muay Thai training, it's because sparring sessions are fun to me. I feel, it's that actually, yeah, it's a bit like a game where, you're finding new ways to, attack your opponent. You're finding new ways to, dodge your opponent, and so on. And it's the thing that psychologically I'm looking for the most, the fun part of it. But yeah, if a person is taking this thing more seriously, and if a person is, looking for a place where he would, I don't know, fully realize himself or herself, and become like a professional even, and so on, then I guess yes, this competitive element is good to use.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't want to be a professional athlete, I think there is a good balance that you need to keep between getting too obsessed and throwing all, like it's basically the same with gaming. Like if you keep a good balance, don't play too much, it can be a great hobby, learn new skills, etc. Or you can get too obsessed and then it uses up all your time, you feel like you're wasting time. And so like yeah, you need to keep good balance, still keeping it fun. Yeah, a lot of people benefit from keeping it competitive enough, so you want to improve and learn and not give up. When we talk about yeah, I feel like young folks could really benefit from it. I've heard the idea, I think it's also from Joe Rogan's podcast, to implement martial arts at schools as part of PE, Do you think that could be useful, like some kind of martial art?
It would be hard for me to imagine such a situation where this could be possible, but if it were possible, I think it would be fucking amazing. I mean, I think it would be great because, usually students at school, they don't have that much of a choice. Like, I don't know, when it's warm outside, at least in my schools, all throughout my years of going to school, if it's warm outside, you play soccer, football. If it's cold, you play basketball, and that's it. To have this ability to to choose, from different sports, it would be great overall. And also, I guess when we talk about the psychological aspect of martial arts and, the psychological improvements that people get from practicing martial arts, I guess a case could be made that practicing martial arts during physical education could at least, if not solve, then do something good for bullying problems, I guess. Because, the aggressiveness that some students have, they would have a place where they could, put that aggressive energy, but in a safe way, to use that aggressive energy in a way that is, safe, and it does not hurt others that much. And they're, they would maybe also have this cleansing experience that would calm their, brain down and so on. Because the thing that you mentioned earlier, which I think is interesting, and yeah, it's important to emphasize that when people speak about, the benefits of martial arts, they often say that you get this, you become more humble and you become more confident in yourself. And I don't think that it's a contradiction. I don't think that it's a paradox, because when we think of a, the opposition of humbleness is a cocky person. And most of the time, cockiness signalizes that a person has some inner, inner fears, inner complexes, some inner, I don't know, the person is not so sure of himself inside. And because of that, because he's trying to compensate those inner fears or inner anxieties and so on, the person becomes, cocky. So what humbleness usually signalizes is a person who doesn't feel the need to compensate for any inner fears, any inner anxieties, any inner weaknesses, and so on, and therefore someone who is self-confident. So I think that, these two parts of personality, like humbleness and self-confidence, I think that, they're just on the surface, they might seem, in a contradictory or paradoxical relationship. I think that they actually complement each other very well. And if there was an opportunity, to improve on this great combination between self-confidence and humbleness in students in schools, and it could be done probably through martial arts, I think that, yeah, it would be very helpful and very, very beneficial for not only for the way that students experience themselves, for the relationships between students, and for the whole, psychological atmosphere of school.
Yeah, that was quite a long answer, but yeah, you do agree as well that they definitely could have a positive place at schools. And yeah, here in Lithuania where we live, like there's not really that many choices. Sometimes basketball is encouraged, sometimes football. Well, in America, they do have wrestling to some extent, but not really other martial arts. And I do think that in this aspect, also grappling sports would sort of surpass striking, because when you take bullies and sort of their victims in the same room, it's much safer if they do grappling than
Probably,
they do striking. Yeah. And yeah, another thing like about this, I feel like it's positive both for the bullies and for the bullied. I feel like, like the people who get bullied, they'd be more confident. They wouldn't get into these kind of situations. The bullies would get much more humble. They have a place where to spend their energy, like all the positive benefits of having a community and like caring about other people, like all of them would be enhanced. And like, I mean, it's an experiment that I like could go great, but with the bullying, I don't see Westgate. I feel like they're look. I do think that would not necessarily solve the bullying problem, but definitely improve it.
Yeah, and also I guess one of the reasons why grappling and especially jiu-jitsu could have a better case, as you've said, in this situation is that I can tell it from my own experiences, since I have no experience in grappling, but from what I often hear is the fact that in jiu-jitsu you can often win even though you're not that physically stronger, but just because of your creativity, because the way your brain works, the techniques that you know, and so on. And then, because I guess what often you see in school is that, in school fights, street fights, or whatever, in bullying situations, often the bullies are just physically stronger. Often you see the situations where the bullied are, weaker, their confidence shrinks and so on because they're physically weaker. But if the person that is weaker is able to win just because of his or her, mindset, creativity, techniques that he or she knows, their thinking process and so on, I think that, that would, boost up their confidence. It could give some humbleness to the ones that tend to bully because of the fact that they are just stronger. So overall, this interesting dynamic of which I guess probably in jiu-jitsu is stronger than somewhere else. I think that it would benefit students quite much.
Yeah, I think it should be great all around. But yeah, listen, it was great to have this spontaneous podcast. I would love to do it after another sick UFC event, maybe DC versus Miocic or some other fight night. But yeah, before I go, I just want to ask you one last question. So we're both fans of the sport, which is mixed martial arts, and you have achieved more impressive results than I have. But my question to you is, if you met a troubled kid or someone who you think could benefit from some sort of martial arts, what would your elevator pitch for them be? How would you convince them in 30 seconds or so to go hit the pads and join some kind of martial arts gym?
Gosh, you're putting me quite on the spot here. I would need to contemplate and give. I guess my answer would be, I guess I would say that whatever is the kind of troubles that you're experiencing, whatever it is, family troubles with your friends and so on, troubles with your parents, whatever it would be, this thing right here, the gym, this could be like an experiment zone where you would fight out your problems, and then the confidence and the victories that you achieve here, you'll be able to carry them to the other places that are problematic in your life. In other words, start from here, because here you'll be able to, solve problems, overcome difficulties, and so on. And you'll see that this will automatically allow you to improve whatever it is, the sphere in your life that has problems and difficulties and so on. So, it's a little bit sketchy. I know the answer. I mean, I would still need to think. I think, anyways, the best thing to do is, if possible, is to listen to another person, and to maybe not have this sort of a general answer for everybody, but to really, listen to what specific is going on in the life of the other person, and then try to make these connections with his or her problems and, the benefits that we both know from martial arts.
Okay, first of all, that's way too long of a elevator pitch. The person
Sorry.
has already left the elevator. Secondly, that's a great answer. I do agree with everything you said. I would think I would approach it through the if it was somebody who's troubled and they're an adolescent at that sort of age, I would approach it through the sort of addictive gaminess that martial arts gives them, at least to hook them, and then the humility, the camaraderie, all these aspects would keep them there. But yeah, that's a great way to end the show. Thanks for being here. Great replacement. And so yeah, that'll be it, folks. I'll see you next time. See ya.